Our country's not perfect, but at least in an aspirational sense, our country tried to be founded on the idea of minority rights with majority rule. The Missouri Constitution retains the right for the people to use the initiative petition process. Anyone can file a prospective change in constitution or law with the Secretary of State's office.
First of all, people need to come together and write the initiative. Once that's written, it gets submitted to the Secretary of State's office.
We will go ahead and we will send a copy of your prospective change off to the state auditor's office. The state auditor will work on what's called the fiscal note, and that's to inform the people of the state how would that affect the finances of the state. So it's going to cost the state money, it's going to make the state money, it's going to cost counties money, it's going to make them money, exactly what that is. While the state auditor is doing that, the Secretary of State's office starts going through the actual legal language of either the proposed statutory change or constitutional change. We outline all the changes it would make because we have 100 words in which to concisely, completely, and clearly explain to anyone what that change would do. Attorney General's office signs off on whether or not he thinks those meet the legal requirements, and then we send it to the individual that wants to have the IP that filed it with us, and they now have what they need to go and start collecting signatures. In 6 of the 8 congressional districts,
we would need 8% of the votes from the last election, which would bring us to about right up under 172,000 signatures in order to qualify for the ballot. Smart campaigners will definitely go for way more than that because we know some of them might get tossed out, somebody might not sign it correctly.
We then digitally send those signatures to the 116 election authorities across the state, checking to make sure that the individuals are registered voters, that the signatures match.
Once we do meet the threshold of signatures, the Secretary of State issues a certificate.
We gave out either a certificate of sufficiency if an initiative petition had met the requirements for signature collection, or a certificate of insufficiency if they hadn't met the requirement for signatures. Then there is judicial review. We write a ballot summary that puts it onto the ballot.
Still, the work isn't finished. Now we have to educate our community more. Like, what does this really mean? Let's get all of these questions answered. The final step is turn out to the polls, right? We need people to actually vote on it.
The initiative process began to become popular again in terms of being used widely in the 1970s. Conservatives discovered that they could get around liberal state legislatures. Over the last decade and a half, when conservatives have enjoyed greater strength at the state legislative level, it's liberals who have now rediscovered the utility.
Increasingly over the last 10 years, voters have sought to go around the legislature to enact policy that otherwise is stalled out. Medical marijuana was a good example. So was Medicaid expansion in 2020.
Medicaid expansion was something that a lot of people believed in, even no matter what their political ideology was. States had the opportunity to expand in 2010, 2011, and Missouri decided not to. The state would have been able to get 100% reimbursement for the first decade, and so we basically missed the opportunity. Politics was getting in the way of good policy. Gathering signatures is relatively difficult.
And getting people to sign up, like, where do you want to work? Where's your expertise? Where do you want to be? Do you want to gather signatures? Do you want to be a trainer? Do you have space where we can host? We're thinking about, visuals and graphics and marketing and all those kinds of things. And we're also thinking about fundraising. So it's a lot. It's a heavy process. It's a lot of work.
It is an arduous, expensive, risky proposition. The recreational marijuana proposal is a great example. They invested tons into signature gathering and just barely made it.
And we had about 400 or 500 people collecting signatures by April on a daily basis. Number that you need is based on turnout from the last gubernatorial election, and the 2020 elections, shattered turnout records. So we ended up having to pay basically 3 times what we paid on the medical campaign to get this on the ballot.
It'll take you about an hour to gather 8 to 10 signatures. And for Medicaid, we submitted 350,000. So,
and it's something that has increasingly gotten under the skin of Republican lawmakers who have super majorities in the legislature, and they're watching these ballot measures being pushed for the most part by liberal interests and voters overwhelmingly approving them. And so one of the things that they've tried to do for several years now is make it harder to either get something onto the ballot or pass something when it's on the ballot, especially when it comes to a constitutional amendment.
Let me tell you a little bit about House Joint Resolution 79. It will put before the Missouri voters the question, is a simple majority to change the Constitution of our state too low a threshold?
Increase the number of signatures you would need, increase the cost, increase the number of congressional districts that you have to collect signatures. There's some that want to say that the legislature has a veto over it, or increase the threshold. So maybe instead of 51%, you have to get 60%.
It's motivated entirely by politics. It's a very partisan measure. You have conservative Republicans who are reacting to the fact that liberal Democrats have been successful at the ballot box over the last 10 years. Forgetting that it was conservatives who used that same device to get their measures put into place.
And it's worth noting, this is a constitutionally protected right, the initiative petition process. So ironically, in order to make it harder to amend the Constitution, this would have to go on the ballot and voters would get to weigh in. And so there might be a spirited campaign about whether to amend the Constitution to make it harder to amend the Constitution.
We need to hold on to every single piece of power that we have, and our initiative process is it.
because the legislator could just, they have bills, they can put something on the ballot, but we have to do all this work to get something on there. About 200,000 people have been able to apply this year. I can't believe that our collective power actually made an impact, but it definitely wouldn't have been like that if we didn't put grassroots pressure on the state of Missouri. We basically have the opportunity to participate in direct democracy because every vote actually counts.